Like, I can't really think of a time it's been wrong. Not counting future stuff, just like, don't talk to this girl, or don't partner with this guy, or don't drive down that street. Like that stuff. When I listen to that, it pretty much always goes well.
Yeah, I've heard you say before about teaching your kids a lesson, and what you would teach them is that how important it is to feel what you're feeling,
Yes,
and actually let it pass through.
Yes,
and actually what you because in our world, we're living in such a world that is so thinking dominant,
yes,
and so intellectual, and
Yes.
you succeeded in that world,
yes,
and many people do, but
Yes.
it's not a feeling culture.
no,
And I've noticed actually that it's starting to become more,
yes,
if you pay attention to the language that people
totally,
use,
100%. Yes.
we are getting more into our bodies,
Yes.
which is a fascinating thing. And I'd love for you to
Mhm.
unpack why you think that is.
Yeah.
But like, why is feeling our emotions so important?
Well, because listen, this is not. I want to make very clear. This is not a thinking is good or bad and feelings good or bad. No. It's sort of like the metaphor I always use is like, if you want to know the area of a rectangle, it's length times width, and it doesn't make sense to say width is more important than length. What are you talking about? They neither exist without the other. I think in humans, thinking and feeling are both crucially, critically important, right? Like the Western culture and American culture is heavily left-brained, reason, rationality, thinking dominant, like very, very much so. So almost everything, a huge number of the problems in our culture and mental health issues and all that can be traced back to some form of two word cell, right? Two reason dominant, to logic dominant, to thinking dominant, right? But at the same token, I don't know if you know people like this. I know people who are very right-brained and very spiritually and airy-fairy, and they're just like they're as far over there as some people are, like, like being sort of thinking dominant, and they're like not connected to reality, and they're total messed up too. Like they're all kinds of fucked up, right?
You need both.
Yeah, right. You can totally be messed up in either direction, right? What I don't want to let go of any of my reason skills, logic skills, thinking skills. Those are all great. What I've been doing the last 4 or 5 years, especially, but really since 2009, that was when I had that moment. I really started my therapy journey, I think about 2011, 2012, right? And so like since then, so the last decade-ish, I've been trying to bring up sort of, if it's thinking here and feeling here, I'm just trying to bring the feeling up to where the thinking is, right? And to balance them, and not trying to bring the thinking down, bring the feeling up and get into my body and feel my emotions, feel my feelings, literally what am I feeling in my body? Not just what am I thinking in my brain, right? Like if I see someone and I'm like, oh, she's really attractive, like I'm thinking about a girl, but I feel a horrible feeling in my gut. Okay, maybe I don't understand why I feel it, but that is a real thing, that feeling is, right? And it could be I could have eaten a taco that was bad, who knows? But like that's at least recognizing what I'm feeling, and then really connecting to those feelings, and then integrating thinking and feeling. When I get to that spot, when my thoughts and my feelings are integrated, that's when I by far am in my best place in terms of making decisions, seeing the world, recognizing truth, admitting truth, all of that. That's when things are going right for me.
I noticed when I was doing research for this, that it was a situation where one of your children had fell down, and your wife said, "You're fine, you're fine," and you said, "No, like let the child feel what they're actually feeling. They're not just fine. Don't just brush it under the rug." And to think how often we do that to ourselves.
Oh, dude, pay attention, man. If you're out and you see parents, right, and a kid falls down, pay attention to how many times. Pay attention to what the parent says. Right? We'll just go with this example because it's a good one. If the parent says you're okay, like first off, the kid falls down and skins his knee. The kid's not okay. You know, they're not. Like, in there, especially like a little kid, you're 4, you skin your knee, your whole fucking world's ending. I mean, objectively, of course it's not, but like it really hurts. And you have all these feelings and emotions in your body going on that you don't understand. And the pain's overwhelming and all this sort of stuff. And then you think about your dominant caregiver, like usually your mom, like the person who's the most, your sun and your moon, right? Tells you you're okay, but what you're feeling is everything but okay. That's super confusing and disconnecting, right? And the reason the mom is doing that is because the mom is trying to soothe herself and deal with her anxiety because her kid is bleeding and crying, right? And so she's telling herself he's going to be okay, but instead of just saying it to yourself and recognizing, oh shit, I'm super anxious because my kid is hurt, I need to take a deep breath. I can even tell myself he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. That's fine, right? If that's what you need. But you're telling the kid he's okay so that he will stop crying and then you don't have to feel anxious. That's bullshit. That's just flowing down the denial of emotions, pushing away of emotions, right? And of feelings. And I don't think feelings should be dominant, but that is making thinking dominant over feelings and cutting off who you are. Imagine if in society we're like, okay, we've got working legs, but no one gets to use them. You can only use your arms. Like, what the? I mean, I'm not trying to like put down people in wheelchairs, but pretty much everyone I know who's in a wheelchair is in it because they have to be. Right? They have some injury or whatever. I don't know. They might exist. I don't know people who are voluntarily going around with. But that's by cutting off your emotional stuff. That's an equivalent of that. We're only going to use half of who we are. It's so obvious once you get into it. But when you're stuck in the matrix of the Western world, like most people don't even realize how, dude, man, like until I really started both psychedelic therapy and got on land and got space. Even I thought I understood this. I did not, man. I did not. It's like only really now am I starting to really see how, and I had made immense progress feeling my emotions, connecting to them, and I still have so much further to go, but then also I just didn't realize how disconnected from myself I was. You know, like I really didn't. And like the last year and a half I've been on my ranch, and it's like, it's taken me about that time to just decompress and to like let go of the rush, anxiety, shame-based culture that is the West and America especially. It's such a high pressure, high shame, high you're not good enough culture. Right. And you don't even see it. It's, you know, it's everything in the water around us. I think you're totally right. A lot of younger people have woken up to this a lot earlier, right? Like you're the same age or you're 20 years younger than me. And bro, the things you understand at 27, like if you were 27 and I met you when I was 27, I would like, what's wrong with this airy-fairy douchebag? Like, I'm like, what is he talking about? We might even get along, but I'd be like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, bro, you need to go hang out with the hippies. Like, totally. I would have been so utterly dismissive of what you were saying because it was like, what are you even talking about? Because I was so blind to all of it, right?
Yeah. So, like, why is that happening? Why are 27-year-olds waking up to these ideas? And why?
Because the old system doesn't work. The old system doesn't work, and enough people woke up before you were born, and talked about it enough, and then enough people older than you, like me, woke up enough where like I'm not trying to take credit for anything you did or you felt, but where people like you are like you were born into a matrix that was far more torn open than I was. Right. And so it was easier for you to see, hold on, like you had a lot of people in the social, you know, influence sphere where you could look at, if you were that type of person and you were willing to kind of open your eyes and see, you had, I'm just going to make up a number, you had 100 people that you could look at who'd done that. I had maybe 10, right? And so it's like, I think that is really why things are starting to open up a lot more, and more younger people are more awake, because you have a lot more people to you have a lot more opportunities to see other views. And so if you're open to those views, I think it's a lot easier. And then there's a lot more, like a dude like you 20 years ago would have been, like, really a lot of ways, honestly, an outcast, right?
I would have been a lawyer 20 years ago.
Oh, probably.
You know, like,
but no, I'm saying if you were you exactly at 27, transported back to when I was 27 at a bar, you would probably be a goofy outcast. Now you're like a well-known, well-respected dude, right? So like being awake and seeing this stuff and talking about it, it's not like mainstream, but it definitely has a much broader space where it's accepted and even celebrated, right? Whereas like life would have been like, I'll give you a really good example. The guy who kind of introduced me to psychedelic medicine, he's this well, actually the woman who the first woman who sat for me, she's like in her 70s, and she like had done MDMA therapy like years ago, like decades ago, when she was training to be a psychotherapist or something like that. And then she's been sitting for people for like 30 years, and like, bro, for years she was like a true pioneer, like someone living metaphorically on the frontier with no power, no just like some, you know, like some Alaskan homesteader in terms of socially, right? Because if you're doing MDMA therapy in 1993, like who the fuck, where are you, dude? You're beyond the fringe of society, dude. The fringe of society means you can like go to the store. You're weeks from the fringe, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny talking to her now, man, because she's like, when I was doing this, in a lot of ways, man, those people have a resoluteness and a courage, but also a stubbornness, right? Because they're like, we're going to do the right thing. I don't give a fuck, right? Whereas now, like, and then, so like when I was your age, this was kind of on the fringe, but then it was the fringe. Like it was the fringe. It wasn't pioneers anymore, but it was fringe. And now and then like, you know, when I started really 5 years ago, then it was like kind of the inner fringe, right? And now feeling and medicine, like psychedelic medicine, all this stuff it's not mainstream, but it's definitely, it doesn't have to be hidden anymore. You're not a lunatic pioneer anymore, right? And so I think that's, and also there's a lot of truth to that path. And so someone like you who wants to walk the right path, to grow, to see truth, is like you have a ton of opportunities to find it now that didn't exist, and you don't have to pay a heavy social cost anymore. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's why it's more popular.